Hey, what's up, everybody? Kendall here with the Wealthy Legacy Journey. I'm super excited to be hanging out with you guys. I'm actually recording this episode just a little bit late, so please give me forgiveness. Um, but it's actually right now 6:41 a.m. Monday morning, and usually these come out automatically at 6 a.m. on Monday morning. But this last week just really got away from me. It was crazy, and lots of life stuff happened. Lots of life stuff popped up. We're going to talk about that today. Um, but with that said, the title of today's episode is "How do you handle life when life hands you lemons?" Because I've been handed some big wins, it feels like lately, but I've also been handed some pretty big lemons lately. And as you guys remember last week, just all the crazy stuff we've been dealing with our car accident for the last month. Last week, I had to dig up our entire sprinkler system and take care of that. So I ended up recording the podcast late on Saturday. This week was going to be kind of the same thing because we had another house project just come up out of nowhere. um, but I want to read this quote to you by Nelson Mandela. I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. And so in our lives, whenever we face a situation that could be a fearful situation or a difficult situation, how do we triumph over that difficulty? Right. And so for a lot of people, one of the difficult places in their life, and even a place that I've experienced a lot of friction and difficulty in my own life, is the area of finances. How am I going to make it? How am I going to be able to get ahead? How am I going to be able to, I'm not quite to the place of thinking about saving up for retirement, but I hear that a lot of people like, how do I save up for retirement? How do I build, something? Um, and I would just say, again, courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. Again, the brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. And so again, like, you know, really the whole thing that we're doing here at the Wealthy Legacy Journey is we're taking everything about this journey one small step at a time, balanced, strong steps instead of unbalanced leaps in our path toward new heights. It's part of my mission statement that I'm passing on to you guys. Because for me, like I've said before, this is my third time around to build $200,000 or a little bit beyond. But the other times is I kept going unbalanced leap after unbalanced leap after unbalanced leap to get to 100,000 and then beyond. And eventually that path would topple over. The path we're walking now is slow, strong steps of growth that continue to iterate on top of each other. And they continue to build momentum, build size, and we're building a wealth snowball, if you will. So this last week, one of the crazy things that happened had to do with fix and flips. This is why when people see fix and flips on HGTV, I think it's just the coolest thing since sliced bread. I tell them, man, there's a lot behind the scenes of that show that you don't see. So for example, one of them, I've got this property that I'm managing up in Euless. And there was this guy who was moving and he wanted to prove himself out to us on doing the clean out of this house. It was a hoarder house. And and so it was just I had to go through some interesting stuff because he was like, I've done this before, and it's been a minute since I've been in the project manager role. And I've got two other people who, are kind of like the regular clean out people that the team uses. And I'm one of the guys that I've used in the past. And but I was like, you know what? This guy seems really eager. He really wants this. I'll give it to him. Well, a job that should have taken, excuse me, 2 days, took 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. This guy started being out there, excuse me, late at night. He was coming out like there was one night where he got there like 6 p.m. He worked till midnight. The neighbors were getting frustrated. I had to deal with that. Um, he had put all the stuff in the front yard and it was really aggravating the neighbors. Then I was having to deal with code compliance. All this happened just over a course of a few days. So I met him at the very beginning, and then I went out and walked the project a few days later, and Usually the clean out, and I told him this, it was like at the end, I was like, the clean out's not the stressful part. The clean out is like the easy part. The hard part is the finish out. But I told him, I was like, this clean out has ended up becoming more work, more headache, more frustration than the finish out has been for a long time. And so I had to let him go. The thing is with you guys, like if you decide that you want to get into fix and flips, while it is profitable, you're having to find new contractors for the very first time. And so it's not just your clean out guy. You're rotating through not good contractors on almost every single facet of the job. And you do that for months and or years until you have a team of people that you recommend that you're just like, I will use this guy for this and this guy for this and this guy for this or gal for this, and that, and you get a process built. But at first, you're just going through just that pain of finding the right people. And so I ended up, there was one night where I was having to call at like 9 o'clock at night. It was like 9 p.m. We were on the phone. I called the next morning at 6 a.m. because he was supposed to be done. And finally had to get another guy over there last minute to finish up the job. And luckily, when code compliance came by to start getting a hold of us and pushing the ball forward on fines and stuff like that. I had the other guy already out there. He did an amazing job of finishing everything up, getting everything cleaned up, mowed, and all that kind of stuff. And code compliance left us alone. But uh, it was a mess. It was a mess. And so it was a triumphant moment for me though, because in the past, like a moment of that much stress and difficulty and moving parts and, having to pay, this guy and that guy and dealing with angry contractors. Like I don't like dealing with angry contractors because they can end up costing you a whole lot more if they feel like they got gypped and they get pissed off, they can come back and do crazy stuff like pouring concrete down the drain of your bathtub, which I had before. And I was actually the one that had to go back in and break up the foundation to pull up the pipe to fix that. And so it happens. And so I really don't like angry contractors. Um, just because I found that the damage they can do out of frustration can end up costing you so much more than, if you're like, hey, I'm just going to pay you like a couple $100 less because they didn't finish the job. They shouldn't get paid all the way, but they have a hard time connecting with that. And I get that because they're not making a ton and they're trying to put food on the table. It's a hard balance that I'm not always the best about figuring out how to handle well. So, anyways, and another thing is that that house actually got broken into like right after we started, and so I had to get a guy over there to fix the door frame. And so there was just like so many things happening on that front, just at the same time. It was like boom, 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 all at the same time trying to get that, handled and taken care of. But then on the other side, we had a great win. We ended up buying these golf balls for 26 bucks. And we ended up selling $80 of loose golf balls. And I can't remember if I talked about this in last week's episode or not. So I'm going to go through it quickly because I thought I did. $50 ish of loose tees and $100 ish of packaged golf balls. And we had a 785% ROI roughly right there. So we've already sold the $80 of loose. They were called like hit-away golf balls. Um, and right now we have the packaged golf balls. Actually, we did an auction starting at 99 cents because we figured, in my mind, I was like, we've already made our money back. Let's just see what happens if we auction off these golf balls. And so that actually ends this next Sunday at 7 p.m. So we'll see if you guys want to go bid on some golf balls, as long as you're watching it this week. You can go Cozy Home Knickknacks on eBay or Etsy and check out those golf balls. And that's part of Double Dare Your Money. And we also ended up doing eBay auctions this week for some of the stuff that had just been sitting around our house that we needed to take care of, that we felt like there was some value in. And so this week we actually got to prove that out. We made like 250 bucks. As of yesterday, we had a bunch of auctions and then one that was just like a set price. And between all the stuff, we made like 250 bucks. Stuff that was just sitting there that we weren't using, haven't used in a long time, wouldn't be using ever. It's probably some things that just needed to get rid of, and made 250 bucks. And that was super exciting. And so I would just say, for you, if you're a part of Double Dare Your Money and you're trying to figure out like where do you get even your initial funds to get started, I would say look around your house, see what you can list. It gives you great practice on eBay and or Etsy if you feel like Etsy is a better fit. A really good feel for the platform and how the platform works. You can test some things out and you can also make some money just kind of out of the gate, get some of those quick wins, which is really, kind of an exciting thing. And the great thing is like eBay makes it so easy to list stuff because once something like it's been listed before, you can either go find a thing that's like it and then, say sell something similar. You can click that button, or you can just go into the selling thing and type it all out. Um, but yeah, so that was a really cool win. It's interesting too, because like one of the mindset shifts that we're having in our life right now is how to focus on not burning through the capital that we built. And so one of the things that we're actually looking into right now is buying a cash car for me, because as some of you guys will know, so we own Libby's minivan cash. Well, let me back up. So before, um, we owned Libby's car cash, and then we had my truck, and the truck payments on that were like $450 a month. And then we ended up Libby's car kaput. I think was this kind of timeline. We bought Libby a new car with debt, but it was only like a $7,000 used car, used minivan. It was a Toyota Sienna. It's been a really good car for us, but it wasn't like a brand new car. We had to borrow the money to get that. Just not even a whole year earlier, we had like $100,000 in the bank. Year later, we don't have any money, and we had to buy a $7,000 used minivan with debt because we were out of money. It wasn't like that was $100,000 paycheck that I made for the year. That was $100,000 in the bank, and we had spent it and managed it poorly. I'm gonna take full responsibility for this. This is not Libby. I had done a poor job. Looking back, realizing now that I can buy like a Toyota Camry for $4,000, my mindset just had this total shift. I could buy a used Camry for $4,000. My car payments were $450 a month. I could easily have bought a Toyota Camry or something along those lines every year that I owned that truck. I owned that truck for like, I think 2.5 years before we finally sold it to get out of debt that we did, last year, 2023. That was the big thing, was us getting out of debt. I could have bought like 2.5, 3 Camrys for the amount that I was putting into that truck in car payments, most of that being interest. I was crazy. And so it just feels really good to be at a place now where, really, we're getting aggressive about our goals, figuring out what's important, what's not as important, where to allocate our time, energy, and resources, where to not allocate our time, energy, and resources. And as we're starting to approach summer, even we're hearing, from both sides of the family talking about vacations. And just last night, it came up about maybe a ski trip. And, I told Libby, I was like, based on our breakdowns, like we have to have some pretty serious, wins in order to be able to build up enough fund money um, to be able to go on some of these different vacations that, we're talking about. And I just don't see that as being a feasible reality right now, because what I don't want to do is burn through all the cash that we have right now and not be able to invest. Like investing is number one. But then we do have a small percentage that is going to waterfall over from the investments that's going to go into our fund money budget. And that is a budget that we can actually use for whatever we want. So, for example, we are building up $60,000 of assets because that's roughly what we need for a year of income. So in my mind, even if we had to liquidate at half price, we have 6 months. If we had to liquidate all of our assets at half price, we have 6 months of emergency fund there available. But then we can also keep that money churning. So our goal is to get to 60,000 as quickly as possible in assets. While we're building the 60,000, we have a 10% tithe, and then 10% goes to fund money, and then obviously we've got to take care of tax when that time comes around. And so a small percentage goes to fund money, and then we have our 10% tithe, and then the rest goes back to reinvesting. Now, once we meet that $60,000 goal of assets, then things start to loosen up a little bit. We have, if it's active income, active investment income, or passive income, they break down differently. But if I remember correctly, yeah, we have it written down, but active income, once we've broken that $60,000 mark, for anything over and above what we need to live every year, like if I get bonus checks or I do extra jobs or stuff like that, We take 10% of that. For active investment income, I think it's 20%, and then passive income, 30%. And so I'm positively incentivizing myself to make my way up that ladder because I know even where the greater fruit is. There's going to be more fruit in active investment income than there is going to be in my time in just active income. Even though I can make quite a bit of money, I can make quite a bit of money because I work inside of the investment world. But if I'm working for money, I'm making somebody else, the lion's share. Um, and so then, I want to move to that active investment income, which we're doing right now, which is super exciting. But then long term, I really want to get to that cash flow because I even watch now how people that I know and I see in business, they're 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 stuck in their business. They have to work. They basically traded out one job for another very high paying lucrative job, but they have to work it every single day. It's not cash flow, it's not passive. The way that they built it, even though a lot of these guys are in real estate, they built it in a very active manner. They have to be actively engaged in their business every single day to keep it on and running and churning. And so I just kind of want to build something a little bit different. If I'm active in my business every single day, I want to do something that I love, like working with you guys or recording the podcast or talking with other people on their podcasts and stuff like that. I don't want to have to be locked into just doing, one thing. Especially things that it's like, ooh, I really don't like that, but I have to do it every single day because I have to keep the lights on, I have to keep the bills paid. It's like then I just traded out a simple life for a more lucrative but also much more complicated life that I can't turn off. Another win from this week is all of the farm is sold, which is I can't a weight of relief, especially for Libby. But when Libby's relieved, we're all relieved. And so it's just been a weight lifted off of the shoulders of our home, which has been so wonderful. I'm very excited about that. Another amazing, super cool, really exciting thing I'm going to show you guys here, actually. We finished off our second goal poster. Woo! So we're reorganizing our room right now so they can both fit together on the wall. But I want to show you this. Goal emergency fund was $11,926.95, and March 1st we finished this bad boy, which is so exciting. And I can't even tell you guys like how awesome that felt. It's funny because I was talking with somebody this last week and I was telling him about it. And I was like, man, I've earned more money than that at one time in the past. But that amount of money right there, I had to work so hard. I had to say, Libby and I were talking about it. We realized, like, I think what it is that we had to say no. We had to say no to ourselves, to our desires, to our wants, to our budget so many times in order to reach that goal. There were so many times over the last few months, in fact, that we had to eat rice and beans. That was all we could afford because we were putting as much aside as possible to build this up. And so there is from December 1st, $1,055 from extra pay. December 29th, $1,323.96. January 29th, we had $3,000 that we were able to put over. February 1st, we emptied, at the beginning of February is when we ended up shutting in the bot. We emptied out our brokerage accounts. And so we got $1,035 from Interactive Brokers, $918 from Ninja Trader. Then March 1st, we had $4,000 of extra pay built up. And then we also had selling the farm. And so we took $594 and what is it, 99 cents. And we pulled that over to be able to finish off and hit our emergency fund goal, which was just so cool, so exciting, such a big win. And so we're actually a really cool update for you guys to know is we are starting Double Dare Your Money for the 10,000 to 100,000 portion starting March 1st. So it's technically already started. Now, this isn't going to be the original Double Dare Your Money fund yet. So my goal is actually to build that one up from where we're at right now. We've got, the bread maker, we've got the switch, so we have some assets, and we've got like $2 and some change with Double Dare Your Money where it's currently at. but I would love to be able to build the 10,000, $100,000 portion now. So that way, whenever I can get double dare your money to 10,000, if I have another portion of pre-recorded of 10,000 to 100,000, then I've got us all the way from 0 to 100,000. I'll re-record the 10,000 to 100,000 with the double dare your money fund as I take it specifically through that range. But I want to kind of record all of that at the same time so I can start offering up some stuff to you guys, some really cool products. The only thing I want to let you guys know is that while I'm recording this, I'll be talking about it here and there on the Wealthy Legacy journey, but all of that $10,000, $100,000 is really going to get recorded, a lot of it in the background, because that's going to be a part of what I'm able to do and what I'm building here. Is my goal is to take you guys from 0 to $1,000 for free to start teaching you some of those basic concepts, but then from 1,000 to 10,000, so I can actually do this for a job and get paid to do this because I love it and to be able to work with you guys and stuff like that. 1,000 to 10,000 is going to be like one payment tier. It's going to be very low, very cost effective, of getting you kind of through that bracket, and then it's going to bump up when you go to 10,000 to 100,000. So I'm going to start building behind the scenes some of the paid content that hopefully in about a year from now, we'll be able to launch. So my goal, I think, would be, and it'd be an aggressive goal, but a really cool goal, is if I can get from 10,000 to $100,000 in a year, which again, very aggressive. I don't know if that's possible. That'd be so cool. If I could get from the $70 and 58 or $74.58, excuse me, to $10,000 in a year, and that would be extremely aggressive, but maybe possible. I just think it'd be so cool that basically over the year of 2024, we can get from 0 to 100,000 all that built, and then that's an awesome offering. Um, and then essentially, 1 year it took me to get from the $74.58 to 10,000, and then a year it took me to get from 10,000 to 100,000. So it's like within 2 years, going from 74,000 or $74.58 to $100,000, which would be an insanely aggressive goal. I don't know. Maybe it's not going to be as aggressive as I think it will be, and maybe we don't hit all the way there. That would be like absolute best case scenario. But we're going to get as far as we can. I know we're going to hit the goal eventually. But the faster I could do it, I think the more exciting it would be for you guys, the audience, and be able to market it and stuff like that. So, but at the same time, I've got my house stuff going on. I've got the sprinkler system. I got family stuff. I've got my own day job, and so it's like we got to keep the goals kind of like in a realistic proportion with that. I want to remind you guys though to be playing the Robert Kiyosaki Cash Flow board game. It's so good. Like I've played it multiple times lately. I played it for a long time there, a few times a week, at least once a week. I don't play it once a week anymore, but I definitely play it at least once a month, and it's just a great reminder of what we're doing here. Why am I doing what I'm doing? How does this work? Why do I say no? Like especially when I feel like I'm going through a phase where like I'm having to say no to this, no to that. You know, just no, 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 no. I'm choosing not to afford this. I'm choosing not to afford that. I'm choosing not to afford that. So that I can build up my, as you guys saw, I can build up to $11,926 and 95 cents. There was a lot of no's that had to happen, painful, difficult, frustrating no's that had to happen in order to build up that money. But now we're taking basically $10,900, so that we're gonna leave $1,000 sitting there for an emergency fund in case anything crazy pops up. We're gonna take 10,900 and we're gonna start investing into tax sales. And so there's actually tax sale coming up this next Tuesday. So excited about that. I hope that we can lock up a property there. But like I said, we're gonna take our money and start investing it in that way. And try to double dare our way up from that $10,000 mark. Um, so again, it would be my personal savings on that one. It's going to be the same process, as what we're doing with Double Dare Your Money. And so that's where I think there's going to be a lot of just it'll sync up. It'll work. Um, a really interesting quote though that I got from Nicky Gumbel this week. He said, "Money is to be used but not loved. Don't love money and use people. Love people and use money." He talked about money being a tool. He talked about the love of money being the root of all evil. And it just was really good. I love that last part. Don't love money and use people. Love people and use money. And so for me, like I've really, I feel like grown in that, and I know I still have a lot of growing to do. But in the sense of like money is just a tool. Like, it's the same as a hammer, it's the same as a saw. I told Libby the other day, it was like, why collect and just stash all of this money aside? Like, if I were to be like, yeah, I've got a hammer collection, I've got 10,000 hammers. Somebody be like, what the heck? Why do you need 10,000 hammers? It's the dumbest thing ever. But it's like, okay, if I truly realize that money is just a tool, then why would I collect it and just let it sit there and, do nothing? If it's a tool, I only need to keep what I absolutely need on hand. And then if I have extra hammers, I'll rent them out. I'll deploy them in the marketplace, right? Because I don't need all those hammers. And same with the money. How do I deploy that in the marketplace to be able to let it grow, do something for me instead of just letting it sit there and collect dust? But not to use people through that process. How do I love people first? Use money to love, to care for people, um and to meet basic needs of people in my community around the world, but then also use money as a tool to be able to continue growing for my family and my life. Yeah. So all that said, there was a lot of really cool stuff. So what was it? It was Friday, March 1st, that we reached our $11,926 and 90 or 925 six, yeah, it was 926 and 95 cents goal. So exciting. And the next day, no, was it that night? It was that night, Friday night. I'm sitting there in my bed, 8:30, relaxing, winding down from, as I mentioned, with the flips, and there was stuff with another flip, long week. Guess what happened? Sitting there, and all of a sudden I just hear boom, and that sounded like somebody just like fell. Libby was in the other room. She fell. I thought she had fallen. I was like, Libby, are you okay? I rushed in there, and she was like, I'm okay. I didn't fall. It wasn't me. And like, then we kind of got quiet, and all of a sudden you just hear like, I was like, oh no, that sounds like water. Libby was like, yeah, I think that's water. So I rushed off. I was like, let me know if it stops. I shut off the water to our house. Sure enough, silence. So after a long week, after fixing my sprinkler system all last weekend, after this Saturday was supposed to be Libby and my date day, and we were supposed to just be able to do nothing. My water pipe busted somewhere underneath my house. And so now, because I don't want to pay somebody to do it, because I don't want to burn through my capital, hello, Saturday, this is what I'm doing. Um, So then I went into the house, cut it open, and it was steaming under there, but it was because it was actually a hot water line that had busted. And so our electrical lines run underneath the house as well, because we have a mobile home, so everything runs under the belly. And so I was like, you know what? To be safe, better to be safe than sorry. We shut off the power. We shut off the water. We also have a gas water heater, so we just went ahead and shut off the gas, the water heater. We shut off everything. And I was like, I'm gonna have to come look at this in the morning. And so we got the kids back up out of bed. Everybody was already in bed for the night. Anybody who's a parent understands the pain of that when you're like, oh my gosh, I'm to wake up my kids. But it wasn't but like 2 minutes after we shut off the power, because we didn't know if any of the electrical stuff got wet. The kids started crying, and everybody was awake. And so we moved out, and we went somewhere else to sleep for the night. Came back early the next day, and praise the Lord, it wasn't too complicated of a fix. It was just I ended up needing a little bit of PEX and some crimps, and I just had to reconnect. It literally, the crimp had popped off the corner of the PEX line. I've never seen anything like that before. Maybe it's more common than I realize, but I've been doing PEX and crimps for a long time now, and I've never seen one pop off. But it literally just popped off the corner, and so I had to cut it back, splice in a new piece of PEX with a connector, and it was one of the 3/4 inch main lines. So I'm glad we got the water shut off. Even a 1/2 inch would do a lot of water through it, but being that 3/4 inch, it would have just been just flowing through there. So that was crazy. Got that fixed. Ended up we got a lawnmower as another thing that happened this week. Just because we don't want to pay our lawn guy this year, because again we're trying to be really efficient and wise with our money. So we borrowed a push lawnmower. Took me forever to get it started. Finally got it started. I pushed lawn mowed like 1/2 acre on Saturday after fixing the water line. I was exhausted by the end of the day. Um, so anyways, but it was really cool because Friday night the water popped. We had to leave. as we're coming back to the house on Saturday morning, we're like, we don't know what the water situation looks like today. We don't know what the food situation looks like today. We have to stop for breakfast with the kids. So we stopped off, even though I really do not. I'm in a place now where I really don't like spending money. We stopped off, we ate breakfast, and then at the end we were like, "Hey, can we get it to go box? Can we get our bill?" And the lady was like, "Oh, your meal has actually already been paid for by somebody else." And it was just like, wow, that was just so good because it was like it felt so defeating to have to spend, a little bit to fix, which actually wasn't ended up being too expensive because labor was it was usually the biggest part on that. And I did the labor myself. We did have to pay some to fix the water stuff, and I already knew that that was coming up. And then you have to pay for food and all this kind of stuff. And so it was just kind of like, wow, like thanks God, I really appreciate that. You kind of helped us out there. Um, but yeah, and there's this quote too, one from Corey Ten Boom, and then finish off by Nicky Gumbel. Corey Ten Boom said, "Worry is a cycle of inefficient thoughts whirling around a center of fear." Sounds similar to our original quote by Nelson Mandela. When life gets crazy and storming and raging like this, and we've got, sprinkler systems or water pipes busting and family stuff and financial stuff, it can become this whirlwind, job stuff. I'm having to manage people, this whirlwind that can eat us up and consume us with fear, right? But again, how do you handle life when life gives you lemons? For me, I found it best to go to the Lord and just give it to Him. Say, you know what? I can't carry this alone. I need help. And I just get this peace. Nicky Gumbel said, this fear, this is the opposite of peace, of the peace and the joy that Jesus offers. See, guys, 2 Timothy 1:7 says, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind." And I go back to that verse often of like, I don't want a spirit of fear. I don't know about you. Like you might not even right at this moment follow Jesus. You might not even know Jesus. You might know of Jesus, but might not know him. But if you want to walk a life of power and love and a sound mind, that's what Jesus offers. If you want to move away from the spirit of fear being over and consuming your life, move towards Jesus. And one last really cool thing that happened this last week. Um, and I think this just goes back to like our legacy and planting seeds and seeing the power of that. As Liliana, my oldest daughter, they had spent the night at their grandparents' house on Saturday night. So Sunday, we went to pick them up. She came up to me with 60 cents that she had earned. And she was like, "Daddy, look, I made 3 coins." She's about to be 5, so she doesn't know the coins yet. She knows some of them. We really talk about them. She's like, "I made 3 coins." I was like, "Oh wow, baby, that's so cool. I'm so proud of you." And she said, "I want to flip a house like you. I want to make my money grow." And she's like holding these coins, and she's going to give them to me. She's like, I want to use these to flip a house." And I was so proud of her. And I was like, "You know what, Liliana, you're a tad short of flipping a house, but let's go to a garage sale this next week and find something for you to be able to flip." And just she was so excited to be a part of what I'm doing, what Libby's doing, what we're doing as a family. But it made me so excited as a father to see her absorbing these lessons that I'm trying to teach. And so, if any of my kids are listening to this, I'll say that, teaching you and raising you guys has been so rewarding and exciting so far. And I'm excited to see how that continues to come to fruition. Not that you have to do what dad does, um, but that you have the skill sets, the knowledge, and the abilities to have a life of freedom, a financial freedom, to be able to do what the Lord calls you to do. That excites me. Um, but then for everybody else watching too, is that's really just the mentality is how can you just take the amount that you have and say, I can either spend this on something, because my other one, Liberty, who's a little bit younger, she was just thinking about, I want to buy an Elsa purse or something like that. But Liliana to be able to go, I want to have the self control to flip the, I want to make my money grow. That's what it takes. It does take saying no, so you can make it grow. So that's pretty much it. I want to try something new though for our episodes, and this is kind of something I just felt led to this last week. I want to pray over us as we exit, before we go into the identity mantra and everything like that. Um, just over everything that we got going here. So, Lord, I just pray that if there's somebody here who doesn't know you, who's experiencing that fear, who's experiencing that whirlwind, I pray that they would come to just knock on that door and say, "Hey, Jesus, I think I'd like to get to know you. I'd like to experience that peace, the love, the sound mind, that you are saying that you have to offer. Can I experience that?" I pray that they would come to you right now. And Lord, I pray that if they're unsure of what that looks like, they would reach out to us and we would be able to help point them in the right direction to get connected with resources to come to know you in a powerful way. And Lord, I just pray that you would use us in our own journeys, to not love money and use people, but to love people and to use money in a way to impact the world for a positive way. And Lord, I just pray that we'd be able to honor and glorify you as we go out, we build wealth, and we do amazing things. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. So, again, our identity mantra, say it with me, please. I explore the unknown, I conquer new frontiers, my journey is powerful, and my wake is a wealthy legacy. And remember, guys, wealthy is simply the ability to cover your monthly expenses without having to lift a finger. It gives us financial freedom. And legacy is leaving a long lasting impact on others who come after you as they receive the fruit of your labor. Whether that fruit be good or bad, you are going to leave fruit. So remember, plant good seeds, raise good trees, and bear good fruit. Don't forget, guys, the Google Docs is going to be in the description at the top of the video. You can go there to see any of the quotes, from today and from other episodes. You can also get access to the book reports and some other resources that I've plugged over there on the Google Docs. So it's a really great resource that I put together, that I hope is extremely helpful for you guys. A lot of stuff that I've gotten a ton of value out of. With all that said, this has been another episode dedicated to you and your own personal wealthy legacy journey. It was awesome to connect with you guys today. I hope you all have a fantastic week, and I will see you guys on the next episode. Go out there, build your legacy, build some wealth, leave a wake, build something powerful. It was awesome seeing you guys. See you next week. Bye.